Auburn basketball has played the most prolific schedule in the SEC this year, but can they finish strong?
Everybody to the midweek report brought to you by the Rage Room. The only raging happening right now are fans if they happen to travel to Neville Arena to support some other team that's not named the Auburn Tigers. They're leaving upset. Maybe they need to go check out the Rage Room in Opelika after the game so they can break something. While Auburn is shattering records, you can go break some things at the Rage Room, whether you're in Opelika or Birmingham. Make sure you check them out, 1510 2nd Avenue in Opelika, 2616 7th Avenue South in Birmingham, Alabama. If you are not already a part of the Green Name Gang, you are missing out on some great game day stuff, man. We are doing watch parties for our members right now. You're watching along on the game with me and seeing me absolutely go nuts over calls and Dylan Cartwell dunking backwards on people, all kinds of stuff, man. So come on into the party with Green Name Gang. Get yourself a membership. If you are not a member, maybe somebody will gift you a membership and you get a free month of membership on them. This has been a great thing that you all are doing to help other people get involved, and we definitely appreciate that. Maybe, just maybe, you want to be in the Auburn area just so you can be ready to roll Toomer's Corner, but you can't find tickets to the game. Go check out our folks over at Los Amigos Mexican Restaurant, and maybe you can watch the game there and then drive down to Toomer's or somewhere close and then walk over to Toomer's and celebrate victories for the remaining home games on the season. Tell them the guys at the War Report sent you when you head over there. And in case you have some anxiety issues, you can check out our folks at the Rogue Shop. Use code REPORT when you do at America's #1 online dispensary for sleep, stress, pain, anxiety, relief is there for you at the Rogue Shop. Make sure you tap in with our folks over there.
Relief is at the Rogue Shop, Ike. But you know what? Auburn's opponents aren't getting any relief here on this schedule. They are beating everybody down. Exciting times in Neville Arena. I was in the house yesterday for Oklahoma, and I can tell you Auburn looks good. They look good. And I don't want to say they look unbeatable, but they look unbeatable. So I want to, before we begin the discussion tonight, definitely want to thank everybody for joining us on the midweek report. I want to take you back to a conversation we had that started at South Carolina and talking about this schedule. The stretch was at South Carolina, home versus Mississippi State, number 15 Mississippi State, at number 23 Georgia, home against number 6 Tennessee, at LSU, and at number 23 Ole Miss. We asked the question to ourselves and to our listeners, what would be a reasonable expectation over that 6-game stretch? Our answers ranged from 3-3 to 4-2, maybe a 5-1 in there. Auburn won them all, and they played 2 of those games without Janai Brown.
Yeah, that's good. A fact.
They've looked good. So now we're going to talk about the rest of the stretch here, which is at home versus Florida, at Vanderbilt, at Alabama, home versus Arkansas, home versus Georgia, home versus Ole Miss, at Kentucky, at Texas A&M, and home versus Alabama. Oh my goodness, this is a crazy schedule.
Yeah.
Starting with Florida on Saturday. I'll be in the house for that one. I worried about this matchup about 3 weeks ago. I don't know that I'm as worried about this matchup in Neville as I was 3 weeks ago.
Florida hasn't played great on the road this season. So there is some reason why you could feel a little more confident maybe about this game. Don't know what the health of Walter Clayton Jr. is going to be. He missed the last game. Florida won the game at home, but he missed the last game for Florida, and he's definitely one of the most dynamic guards in the conference. So that his health is going to be a big thing. If Janai Broome could bounce back from his ankle situation and only miss 2 games, then I don't know what Walter Clayton's situation is going to be. But hopefully, for Auburn, they're prepared either way. But yeah, I mean, Florida's a team that is, Coach Pearl said it in the post game, they're the opposite end of the spectrum from Oklahoma. Their size and aggression and physicality and all that. Oklahoma's finesse and tempo and small ball, right? And so Auburn's got to figure out a way to play that style, which they've done an okay job of doing that. Georgia's a team that plays like that. Tennessee's a team that plays like that. So they've faced teams like that, non-con, Houston, Iowa State, all of that. So we'll see what happens this Saturday, but you got to feel good about the chances for Auburn, particularly at Neville Arena.
Yeah, I mean, look, Neville, I've seen the commercials running about how tough a place Neville is to play, and not many teams getting out of there over the years with a W. I don't think Florida's going to get out of there with a win. Personally, I'm picking Auburn to win this game, and I'm actually picking Auburn by double digits. Look, if they're going to shoot like they shot on Saturday, and I mean yesterday, efficient, like Denver Jones was 4-4 from the field, 3 of 3 from 3-pointers. He hit both his field goals, and he didn't commit a personal foul. I mean, those numbers aren't staggering, but that's a clean game.
Yeah, no, that's efficient. That's what you want from Denver Jones. You don't need him to do 30 points a game. If he can give you that kind of output, Auburn's going to be really, I mean, I say this a lot. Auburn's tough to beat anyway, but if Denver Jones is giving you that kind of efficiency offensively, because he's going to bring it defensively every night. He's proven that even with his shooting slump, that defensively he wasn't going to be an issue. If he's going to play offensively in that way, it's a tough out, man. It's a very tough out.
Other notable stats from last night, Auburn came into the game averaging 6.8 blocks per game. That leads the nation. They had 11 blocks last night, Ike. So it was a block party. Dylan Cardwell was having fun. Everybody was having fun. But to keep having fun, they're going to have to continue it versus a Florida team, which last time they met, it was in the SEC tourney final, and they won that game. As a matter of fact, they won that game handily. Right. Now, we talked about whether or not we thought this was a better Florida team than the one that they played last spring. I was on. You guys said yes, and I was on board. And I still do think they're better. I just don't think they're significantly better. And I think Auburn is significantly better than last year.
Yeah, no, Auburn's definitely significantly better than last year because Auburn is just as good defensively, but way better offensively. That last year, you go back to the Florida game last year during the season at Florida, Auburn couldn't buy a bucket in that game. And they pretty much got what they wanted to in the tourney offensively. I think it's going to be more of the same in this game. Florida is a team that has the ability to do the things that bother Auburn, which is get offensive rebounds, get additional possessions, and they've got some guys that can heat up from 3 if you give them an opportunity to. One of those guys, again, Walter Clayton, who might not be available for the game, but they still got a lot of other good 3-point shooters. So it's going to be interesting to see. The thing that I love that Coach Pearl keeps saying, and it is evident, is this team respects every single opponent. They're not going to come into this game taking Florida lightly. So you're going to get maximum effort from Auburn in this game, and they're going to try to meet the physicality of Florida. The officiating in that game is the thing I'm going to be paying a close attention to. How is this game officiated? How sloppy are they going to allow, or not sloppy, how muddy are they going to allow this game to get as far as the physical play and the bumps on the cutters and fighting for rebounds down in the paint? That's going to be, I think, what's going to help determine the outcome of this game.
So moving past Florida, again, I don't want to make it seem like we're overlooking Florida, but on today's show, we're talking about what Auburn can do for the rest of this schedule.
Yeah, I think I'll go way in depth into this Florida matchup before the game for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Can't wait for that one, actually. But you've got a lot of the ranked matchups after this one. You've got a higher rank, and this might be the game of the year. So you've got Vanderbilt sandwiched between Florida and Alabama. Number 3, Alabama, as it stands today. Man, this game is going to end up being, I keep saying it, what I think we thought Tennessee and Auburn was going to be before Tennessee kind of fell off the wagon on a couple games before that matchup in Neville. Now, that game ended up being a great game at the end of the day. But right now, Alabama is 6 in the net. They are 4-3 in quad 1 games, and they played, according to our guy Warren Nolan, they played a slightly tougher non-conference schedule than Auburn. Both top 7 non-conference schedules, but Auburn has found a way to win just about everything they played so far this year. What do you see happening in this game versus Alabama? Now it's in Tuscaloosa. You're going to be there.
Yeah.
You're going to be there live. I love that for you, by the way. I love that you're going to be in their house when Auburn takes them on here for the first time this season. But this is the matchup of the century, and something's got to give. I think that it's what seems like the unstoppable shooting Alabama offense versus the great defensive effort that we know Auburn is going to give. Who forces who to play whose game in this one?
Yeah. I mean, that's the kind of the odd thing about the Auburn team so far this year is they've been very willing to play everybody's style of basketball. Whatever style of basketball the other team is like, okay, this is, I said this in our pregame about the Oklahoma game, is Auburn has let every team set the rules of engagement. They've said, all right, this is the style we're playing tonight. Great. We'll beat you at that style. Doesn't matter. And they haven't really forced many teams in the Power 4 contest to play Auburn style basketball. Purdue might be the only P4 team that they just went out there and they were like, nah, none of this, not foolishness. We're just going to dominate you. And I think they did a lot of imposing their will against Oklahoma, but even still in that game, it was very frenetic at points and it was up and down. It was tempo. It was, we're going to get quick shots. Like it was just that kind of game. So I do wonder in this Alabama game whether Auburn's going to say, hey, we're going to play that style, or are they going to say, screw that. We know that we've got the better interior post players. We're going to slow this down, make this a half court game. We're going to choke you out in this game, and make it where it's difficult for you to score points, and we're going to be methodical in the way that we score points. I'd love to see Auburn do that and just really like force Alabama to figure out other ways to manufacture points besides running up and down the floor and chucking threes all day. But we will see if Auburn is willing to do that more than they have been versus some of these other opponents.
Is Alabama deep enough to run with Auburn in this game?
No, they're not. That is the central issue for Alabama this season. Is they've got a lot of guards, but they don't have the depth in the post. They've got better post play than they had last year, but I just don't know that they have the depth to be able to. If Auburn's depth does what it's supposed to do, it'll just wear down pretty much every team. There are very few teams that have Auburn's depth. Like you're looking at Missouri as a team with a lot of depth, and there's just not a lot of that are going to go legitimately 9 deep, right? There's teams who play 9 players, but they're not 9 deep. They're just throwing guys out there because they need an extra body because somebody's in foul trouble. But Auburn's a legitimate 9, 10, sometimes 11 players deep into their rotation.
Yeah. I mean, looking at what Auburn was able to do again versus Oklahoma, I mean, it was actually remarkable what they were able to do. They shot a lower percentage from 3 in this one. Mainly Miles Kelly had a tough night from behind the 3-point line, only 1 of 7, which brought the averages down there a bit. Todd Pettiford 3 of 8. Denver Jones hit all his threes. Chad Baker 1 of 5 from behind the 3-point line. But it should be noted when you look at the stats that they scored 46 points in the paint, 98 points overall. So they still hit shots from the outside in this one. There weren't a ton of free throws shot here on Auburn's side. Look, I just think that this is a really good team. And the point that you made about them forcing other teams to play their style of look, if we have to play your style of basketball, we'll beat you at that too. Because let's be clear, Tennessee played the type of game they wanted to play.
Yeah.
And they got a hobbled Janai Broome.
Right.
And he was still the best player in the game, and they still lost. Now, I had a shot to win it at the end. It would have been ice cold by Ziegler to hit that three in Neville to quiet the crowd and walk out of there with a win. But it didn't happen. Auburn got it done. And this is the first of only two matchups that Auburn will have against Alabama here. After that, you've got probably what I think is the most disappointing team in the conference in Arkansas.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you make of their season, man? I
don't know what there is to make of this Arkansas season, right?
Like, it would be a bad loss, right? If Auburn loses,
for sure.
Loss. Yeah, okay.
No, 100% it's a bad loss. I mean, listen, I don't care who the coach is on the other side of that court there against Bruce Pearl. You know, as legendary as Coach Calipari is, you can't lose that game. You just can't. And you know, Arkansas is a talented team, but they have not been very good. Like, there's just no sidestepping that. That's a reality. They've not been very good this year. And you know, despite the fact that, you know, they played better versus Kentucky and got that win, they're just not a very good team this year. Offensively, they've been all over the place. Defensively, they've been inconsistent. All the athletes in the world, but just not able to put it together on the floor. It's a bad loss. It is. If you lose that game, it's a bad one.
Yeah, agreed. After that,
and it's at home, so
yeah, it's at home. Yeah, a home loss to Arkansas would be embarrassing, actually, in this season. Look, you get Georgia again. We know how that game went the first time up in Athens. It was a tough one. Auburn snuck out with a win. Georgia has fallen out of the top 25 since. But this is another one at home that I expect them to win by double digits.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think Georgia coming into Neville Arena is going to be a different proposition. This Georgia team struggles to score the basketball. They just do. They struggle to score the basketball against Auburn at home. I don't think they start scoring better on the road inside of Neville, where Auburn plays their best basketball. This is another one that I'd be surprised if Auburn lost. Now, can Georgia make it competitive? Can they go and muck it up a little bit? Yeah, sure. But I just don't know that Georgia can score enough points. That's the problem. Can they score enough to be able to beat Auburn inside of Neville? Can't see it happening right now.
Yeah, I can't see it happening right now either. And then for reference, when you're talking about Auburn scoring points, Ike, we're talking about a team that can score with the best of them. Now, Alabama leads the nation in points per game. But Auburn is no slouch in that category either. Like, they had some tough SEC contests that dropped them down the list just a tiny bit, but they're still 8th in the country in scoring at 85.1 points per game.
Right.
So, with this,
and a significantly better defense. So that's the difference. Is that
there's
a lot of teams
90 on Auburn.
There's a lot of teams that can score, but can you score and play? It's difficult, and I don't think people appreciate. And this is why you have to be as deep as Auburn is. It's difficult to play defense the way that Auburn does, with the ferocity that they do, and still have enough energy to go score points. And Auburn's done a good job of being good at both of them at the same time. There's just not a lot of teams that can do that.
That's where the depth comes in. That's where the depth comes in. Yes.
Got to send, and people, often say, well, I want to see this player play more minutes. I want to see this player play more minutes. It's difficult to be in this type of system where it requires so much intensity and focus on the defensive end and play a lot of minutes offensively as well. Janai Broome's one of the few players that's playing upwards of, high 20s, sometimes 30 minutes in a game for Auburn. But there's just not a lot of guys that you want to be able to do that, because they're going to get tired playing the kind of defense that Bruce Pearl demands of them.
Right. Again, I'm looking at what Auburn has left, and I'm thinking, I don't know that there's a team out there that I can see putting up 90 on Auburn. Right. I just don't see it. If you're going to beat them, it's going to have to be in the 70s, kind of like
unless you just are unconscious from three, right? Like, you're going to have to hit a bunch of contested threes, not miss any of the open ones that you get. Like, you're going to have to be, it's going to take a team hitting 10, 12 threes in a game to get that kind of points on Auburn.
Yeah. Boy, this schedule again is a doozy. Going down here. Now, here's Ole Miss again.
Yeah.
Here's Ole Miss, and I want to talk about this one for just a second. This will be the second time Auburn went down to Oxford and got the win. Ole Miss is a solid squad, it seems, this year. Pains me to say that, but they just took out Kentucky. As a matter of fact, they beat Kentucky
They blew the doors off
handily.
Kentucky.
All right, and they put 98 on them. Kentucky
Yeah.
scored 84 points in that game. Again, when you're talking about the top scoring offenses in the country, Kentucky is number 3 at 87 points per game. So
And
it
that's
goes,
because they shoot the three really well.
but it goes back to your point about scoring in at that level while playing top level defense.
Yeah, which
Right.
Kentucky does not do.
Yeah. Right. So you scored 84 points in this game, but you gave up 98. So that's why you got the result that you got.
Right.
Look, I think Ole Miss is going to be motivated for this one. I feel like it's hard to say a top 25 game is a little bit of a trap game. But I feel like it's a little bit of a trap game. Now, Ole Miss fell out of I think they fell out of the top 25 after the Auburn loss. And then they jumped back into the top 25 after beating Kentucky. So they've got games against LSU, South Carolina, and Mississippi State coming up. But yeah, I still feel like at home, this would be a bad loss for Auburn. And I know that sounds crazy against the top 25 team, but you beat them by 10 in their house. I feel like you got to get the season sweep here versus the Rebels.
I mean, I don't disagree. I think, the outcomes for me, when I looked at the Auburn schedule at the beginning of the SEC season, Ole Miss was one of those where I was like, I don't know if Auburn gets this one on the road. And they went in there and won by 10 points. And so, yeah, I just don't. I'm not giving Auburn a loss inside of Neville Arena. I'm just not at this point in time saying that. I'm not willing to say anybody's going to come into Auburn and win a basketball game. Florida was the only team that I gave a shot, and we'll see what happens this weekend. Again, Florida a little hobbled right now. But the rest of these teams, you should beat them. Just point blank, period. You should beat them in your building, because other than Florida, the remaining teams on Auburn's schedule at home have to score points to win.
Yeah.
Georgia doesn't score points, so I don't see how that's going to work. They're a good defensive team. They just don't score enough points. Can you score a bunch of points in Neville Arena? Nobody's been able to do that yet, so I don't see. Florida's the only team that's got enough balance, in my opinion, that plays well enough offensively and well enough defensively to make a good challenge. That's why Tennessee was going to be a tough game. They have the defense to be able to do it. The question was, can they score enough points? Florida's the only team I think that's got enough balance on both ends to make this interesting at home for Auburn. Arkansas, no. Georgia, no. Ole Miss, they're good, but no. And then you get Bama back at home. They don't play well enough defensively, no.
Yeah. Okay. After that, you've got you're at number 4, Kentucky in
14.
Number 14, I'm sorry, Kentucky at
which
Rupp
they will
Arena.
drop after this week for sure.
Yeah. For damn sure they will drop after that beatdown that they took. But still going to be a top 25 matchup. No,
I don't know. Hold on, wait a minute.
I wouldn't be mad.
Let's think about this for a second. Do you think Kentucky stays in the top 25 though? Like this?
Yeah. On
they lost to Arkansas and Ole Miss recently, and they're at 14 now. Now the question is, now they still got another game this weekend versus South Carolina that they should win. So maybe it depends on what happens in that South Carolina game. But they'll probably still be in the top 25. They'll be a fringe top 25 team when they come when Auburn goes to see them.
Kentucky is sitting at 24 in the net right now at 15-7. They played 13 quad 1 games. They're 7-6 in quad 1s, and they have a quad 2 loss. They are 8-0 in quad 3 and 4 games combined. But look, you got to beat Kentucky as well, I think. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Kentucky pull something out of the hat here. It's at Rupp. And
because they can shoot the freaking three, man.
Like, I know
that's
Auburn
always
hasn't really
equalizer.
played well there. Yeah. So like I don't know. I could see this if we had to add another SEC loss. I think this is the one that I would pick.
Yeah. That's the only one I would like. I could see Auburn losing at Bama. I could see Auburn losing at Kentucky. The rest of these games, well, at Texas A&M is going to be another tough one, but we haven't gotten there yet. But yeah, those would be the two that I'd be kind of on the edge of my seat about right now. I'm not sleeping on Vandy because Vandy's beating a bunch of people in their building. I just think that's a bad matchup for Vanderbilt. But yeah, I'm with you on because Kentucky can shoot the three so well, and they've got like 6 dudes that can do it.
Yeah.
And guys that can legitimately light you up for like 6 or 7 of them in a game, with a hand in their face. It's going to be difficult.
Yeah. Chat. We're almost to the end of the schedule here. Put in the chat right now who you think Auburn's likely loss is. I'm only giving them one more, Ike. Now, I thought maybe 4-2 in that last stretch, but after they sweeped that first 6-game stretch that we talked about, I'm only giving them one more loss here. So somebody's going to beat the Tigers. It's funny. I was, talking with another Auburn analyst earlier today, and it's rare that one-loss teams or undefeated teams in the regular season go on to win the national title, right? As a matter of fact, I think since 1990, every national champion has had at least 2 losses. So it's not rare. It's rare to be like 29-1 going into the postseason and then win it all. So there could be another loss here, I think, for Auburn, and I'm treating them as if they are a favorite to win the national title going in there. So I think they lose another game. It could be at Kentucky. As you mentioned, it's going to be tough going down to College Station. Number 10 Texas A&M. They started the season highly ranked. They lost to UCF to open their season. That team has given a lot of teams trouble, but has been unable to get over the hump. But they did with Texas A&M earlier in the season. Do you see this as a potential loss on Auburn's schedule?
Texas A&M's another team where I'm not sure they have the offense to do it, and they've been off and on offensively. Of course, Texas A&M is still one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the country, so they don't have to score a bunch of points. They can just frustrate you by having 3 and 4 possessions. But I don't. I think Auburn should beat Texas A&M because I think Auburn is prepared for that kind of matchup. It's gonna look a lot like that Tennessee game, though. I think at Texas A&M.
They are number 14 in the net, 7-5 in quad 1 games. They have not lost a game outside of quad 1, 5-0 in quad 2s, 4-0 in quad 4s. They have played 0 quad 3 games, oddly, but it is what it is. Texas A&M just sitting there, your next to last game. And then you've got Alabama again.
Yeah.
To end your season in Neville. I don't know if could be anything more epic. The story is writing itself, Ike. This is going to be box office again. One of these teams is going to be looking for payback.
Right.
In Neville. Auburn or Alabama is going to be looking for payback after the matchup. Do you think Auburn sweeps the season series?
Yes.
With Alabama, or do they split it?
No, screw Bama. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, there you have it. I don't have a lot to add to that. I hope you're right. Aiden Holloway famously left Auburn and had a parting shot
with that
Bruce Pearl. And I think that Auburn's going to be highly motivated in both these matchups to make sure that if they get beat, Aiden's not going to have a good day. I don't think he's going to have a good day in either matchup. I think they're going to run him off the ball. I think they're going to do everything that they can to frustrate him. And look, man, these two teams are familiar with each other. It feels like Mark Sears is in his 8th year of college basketball, doesn't it? It feels like he's been playing forever. But
he's been flopping all eight of those years.
Oh my God! Did you see? I got from the next round. Was getting into it with his mom on Twitter or something. There was some drama going on there with her saying, after Nate Oates benched him
right
for the second half, and she was like, he didn't get a chance, and it's just keep all that drama going for the rest of the season, like as many distractions as possible for the Tide there on the basketball court. Look, I'm just going to sound like over the top homerism, but Alabama is a flawed team to me. I think they have plenty.
Yeah, they're far from perfect.
When we talk about this year's Auburn, in past years, it was easy to see where their flaws were. Guard play, outside shooting, turnovers. This year, it's really hard to find a consistent flaw with this team. Now, prior to last night, shooting had kind of waned, but they found ways to win. And I thought that it said more about this team that they were able to bounce back from that and have a good shooting night from the outside. But Alabama, when I look at Alabama, I see all kind of problems. Like, they're finding ways to win because they can score.
For sure.
But eventually that luck's going to run out. And I think that we see some sign of that before the end of the season. I think it shows up in these two matchups with Auburn.
Yeah, listen, they're always going to play better in their building. I don't give them, a chance in Neville, though, like, at all. I just don't. I just don't think that they're going to play that well in Neville, and they've proven that they can lose in their building already, and lose badly, because Ole Miss went in there and absolutely skull drugged them, right? Like, it wasn't one of those close, man, they gave a good valiant fight and ball just bounced. No, you got whooped in that Ole Miss game. Could not buy a bucket. Ole Miss got whatever bucket they wanted. So they've shown that they are not unbeatable even in their building. And Auburn hasn't flinched in Neville yet this season. So we'll see if the whatever good fortunes they have for shooting threes can persist there, but I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, it's gonna be real interesting. But hey, great conversation. Let's get to the break here. Ike, you guys are watching the Midweek Report. Do us a favor, share this video using @TheWarReport and hashtag Get Your Weight Up on social media. Hit like and subscribe on the YouTube channel. Help us out in the algorithm. Help us grow that subscription base. We need it. @TheWarReport on X and IG, TW Report on TikTok. We'll be back at you guys after the break, and we're going to talk a little more about a certain Auburn Tiger who is getting some attention from yesterday's game. This is the Midweek Report.
This edition of the War Report is brought to you by our generous sponsors. The Opelika Rage Room in Opelika, Alabama. The Rage Room is a place where anger and stress find their ultimate release. Call or text 334-777-6688 to set up a session today, or check them out online at opelikaRageroom.com. Golden's Cast Iron. Whether you work out, grill out, or chill out, you deserve the best life possible, and Golden's Cast Iron is here to provide the tools to help you do it. Check them out at goldenscastiron.com.
Midweek Report brought to you by our friends at the Rage Room. Visit them in Opelika at 1510 2nd Ave, Opelika, Alabama. Or if you're in the Birmingham area, 2616 7th Ave, Birmingham, Alabama. The Rage Room, not a lot of rage for Auburn fans unless you're talking about officiating. But if you want to get mad at the officials, do it at the Rage Room. Set something up, get all the rage out. We appreciate you guys for signing up as patrons. $5.99 a month will get you there. Our patron members helping keep the work that we're doing here going. As I mentioned, Ike is on the road this basketball season, covering this thing for you guys. You can help him stay on the road by signing up as a patron. You can also give the gift of the War Report by hitting that gifted membership button. We appreciate all our members for supporting our community and helping us grow our green name gang. Also, this show is brought to you by friends at Vintage 2298 Restaurant. Visit them at 2298 East University Drive in Auburn, Alabama. And our friends at the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com and use code REPORT to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life, the Rogue Shop has something that has you covered. Also, before we move on here, our friends at Underdog Sports, new customers deposit and get up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you use code REPORT at Underdog Sports. Just sign up, guys. And if you watched Oklahoma, I picked Janai Broome over, and I picked Miles Kelly over, and I don't think I won, Ike, but
you would have gotten the first half if you picked higher on the first half points for Janai, but Miles Kelly, I think his projection was 11.5.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he was lower than that.
Yeah, it was a tough shooting night. We mentioned 1 of 7 from 3, unlikely for Miles. But hey, having lots of fun with my entry there. So whether you want to place an entry on the big game coming up, Underdog has a lot of great bonuses. Use code REPORT to take advantage of that. Before we get into the second half of the show, let's get to some of your comments here. Thanks everybody for joining us. Jamal Pye says we gotta beat Florida. They own us, so this game I want most so far.
Florida has won inside of Florida's building, but they haven't had the same kind of luck in Neville. So
they caught the business in the SEC tournament finals. So as far as I'm concerned, Auburn owns Florida. Tiger eats Gator every single time. It's just the food chain. I don't make the rules. Ephesians 2:8-9 says, I think we split the two Bama games. Unfortunately, it comes down to the basketball Iron Bowl at the end to determine the champ. A split.
So you don't think that Bama loses any more games, Ephesians, between. So if Bama wins against Auburn, Bama is going to go undefeated from the time of that game until Auburn and Bama play again at the end of the season, is what you're saying.
Let's
because Bama already has a loss in the SEC. So if they lose a second one, then Auburn would automatically win if they stay undefeated other than the Bama game.
Right now, the Tigers obviously 9-0 in SEC play. Alabama 8-1. Missouri 6-2. Florida 6-3. It really does look like Auburn, Alabama, and everybody else at this point. There's a heap of teams: Missouri, Florida, Texas A&M, and Ole Miss with 6 wins and a variety of SEC losses there.
Bama's remaining schedule, let's just look at this. They got to go at Arkansas. That should be a win. They got to go to Texas, who's been tough in their building lately. They've got to play, of course, versus us. They've got to go to Missouri, who's been playing really well at home. They got to play versus Kentucky at home, versus Mississippi State at home. They got to go to Tennessee. Then they get Florida, and then they play Auburn. I don't know if they stay unscathed through that stretch right there.
Yeah,
they could drop a couple of those games.
They could. Moving through the comments here, Devin says some Oklahoma fans were crying about the refs in the first half, and I just laughed. Didn't think the officiating was that bad. I will say this. Their fans crying about the refs is laughable. I did think that the officials were starting to lose control of the game because Oklahoma was so overmatched and Auburn was letting them know. And I
thought it was good up until the whole situation happened with Fears and Chad Baker-Mazara. It went off the rails. And so maybe we'll talk more about that situation in a minute. But
we will.
I have thoughts.
Daniel Denny says, "Don't be shocked if the refs call everything against us against Bama." Look, what do you think the SEC wants here more? I saw a tweet the other day that said that the SEC asked its institutions to invest in basketball, and the school stepped up to the challenge, but the conference has not stepped up to the challenge with the officiating. It is a joke at this point how awful the officiating has been at points, and this is affecting everybody. At some point, everybody is a victim, it feels like, of atrocious calls by the officials here, whether you're Auburn or Alabama or whoever. Just has to be better. But what do you think the conference wants more here? Do you think they want a one-loss Auburn? Who has the best chance to carry your flag as the number 1 overall seed in the tournament?
I mean, Auburn definitely has the best chance. But if we're so, here's the thing. I'm not buying that the officials necessarily have some sort of conspiracy that they're holding to. I just don't think that they are officiating very well. I don't think that they're trying to necessarily call fouls on Auburn. I think, number one, I think Auburn's a difficult team to officiate because of the physicality which they bring. Same thing with Tennessee. Same thing with Florida, honestly. They're difficult teams to officiate. What makes it weird is when you get into those games where either both teams are being physical, like it was with Auburn and Tennessee, and the officials are like, that's a foul, but then 2 minutes later, they're like, wait a minute, that one's not a foul, and those two plays look identical. Or Auburn or these other teams are so severely overmatching the other teams in physicality, like Oklahoma, where it feels like, oh, Auburn's pushing them around, and it's like, no, we're just bigger than them. So, like, it makes it seem as if it's uneven officiating when it's not really. And then when Oklahoma starts trying to push back because they're physically overmatched. The officials don't really know how. It's like, well, y'all been pushing them around the whole game. They're allowed to push back a little bit, right? But it's like it don't really harm you. So, yeah, they just got to figure out what a foul call is, and definitely need to figure out what a tech is, because what are we doing?
Yeah, agreed. Get it together, officials. Get it together. Hugh Rayleigh says Chad makes the opposition player mad. He frustrates them so bad playing defense. Look, man, he knows how to get under your skin, and he plays relentless defense. It's going to happen. Again, we're going to talk a little bit about that young man here in the second half. Black Jesus says they're going to try to hold Aiden to no points both games. I hope they're successful at that.
Don't even know who that is.
Black Jesus. Devin says, no doubt it is definitely a possibility, but I think we're going to lose a couple of games already. And I thought we were going to lose a couple of games already, and we haven't. You're not alone, Devin. I think a lot of people thought there were going to be like maybe 4 or 5 losses on this schedule, but Auburn just keeps on winning. And we hope that continues. James Barnett says, Mike G, 0 losses. There you go.
James Barnett has been calling 0 losses since the inception of Auburn basketball.
My man is ever the hopeful one.
Yeah, he is to Auburn basketball what was the dude's name they used to do it all the time for Auburn football? Why is that?
I don't know, man. He was always in the comments, just 13-0 every season.
Full book, yeah.
Yeah. Devin says Aiden is going to regret everything after he plays at Neville in March. Look,
I'm familiar with who that is.
I'll tell you this. Here's what I think about Aiden Holloway before we move on. He got what he wanted, I guess. Again, going to Alabama, Auburn's the #1 team in the country, buddy, without you. So it was you. You were the problem. They got better. They got better without you. And, I don't know that Alabama's significantly better because they have Aiden Holloway. I think he is one person amongst a bunch of guys who are going to be top 10 no matter what this year. So what did he expect? I don't know. But let's get into the second half here, Ike. Chad Baker-Mazara was ejected from the game after receiving a technical that ended up being his 5th personal foul against Oklahoma. It felt like the referees kind of built that tech up when they did not call the elbow. And, I felt like I thought it was flagrant. And I think back to that tournament game versus Yale.
Yep.
Where they missed what was a throat punch.
Yeah.
And then he elbows him back, and then you call the flagrant 2 on him.
Flagrant 2, right? Like I'd have been okay with a flagrant 1, but a flagrant 2 was crazy.
Yeah, and throw him out of the game. Like, this is where I feel like refs have to be better. And after that, emotions start to soar. Now, he's already an emotional kid, and I want to be clear here. I think Chad Baker-Mazara has matured this season from last season.
Yeah, for sure.
I think he is regulating his emotions a lot better than he was last year. And but you can't, with guys, you can't take away his edge.
Yeah.
You can't take away his edge. This is part of what makes good players good. They play with that edge. And I think Bruce Pearl does a good job balancing, trying to rein that in when need be versus letting kids be who they are on the basketball court. Quite honestly, I think it's why Ja'Kai Howard is still on this basketball team.
Yeah.
Right? They are trying to manage, like, let's not take away his edge, but also there is a standard for behavior that we expect as an Auburn basketball player, and you have to know when the moment is and when the moment isn't. I think Chad Baker has done a good job knowing when the moment is and isn't this year. But the refs still have to, they got to hold up their end of the bargain, man. These kids are out here fighting for their lives, man, on the basketball court. And you got one job, and that's to call it when the dude is elbowing me on the slide.
Right.
You didn't do it. And
it's crap because they went to the monitor to look at it, right? Like, I get it. They feel like he didn't get hit hard enough to, fall down in the middle of the court like he did, and he played it up a little bit. But here's the thing. Did he elbow him on purpose?
Yes, that was
Whether
a
it was hard,
non-basketball play. Yes,
that's literally the definition of what you're going to do for a flagrant one is a non-basketball play. He wasn't trying to make a play or defend or anything. He just elbowed him. You can't do that. So I think the double technical was a little BS because I don't think Chad actually did anything to deserve it. You know, he was just like, he stuck his tongue out. He was like, whatever. Cool. I don't think that deserves a double technical because Fears was the one who instigated that entire interaction. He was just like, oh, okay, I'm in his head. Cool. Let me back off here. So if, though, you had given Fears that first technical, does it escalate even further?
It doesn't happen.
Or if you give him that first technical and then you give a double technical later, guess what? Fears is out of the game too. And I'm feeling a little bit different about that. But because you don't give the first tech, it's BS to give the double tech on the second one. It's bull. You whatever you feel like should have happened, he should have gotten the tech on the first one. He just should have. I'm sorry. I don't care. I don't care if Chad was faking the entire thing there. Doesn't matter. Non-basketball play, F1. He needs to cool down, all of that. It's crap. It's absolute crap. And the officials got it wrong in that instance.
Yeah, I think they did get it wrong. And I think that they played a part in the escalation that happened. And that has to be addressed by the SEC office. I don't like that Chad Baker is getting the brunt of that, though. And because I do think that I think he's doing well this year. Yeah, they're winning. Now, when you're winning, obviously it's easier to rein your emotions in a little better when you're winning. There's nothing frustrating happening out there. But after he got thrown out of the Yale game, Dylan Cardwell kind of called him out in the post game.
He did.
About things that don't help the team. I'm paraphrasing him, but what does that do for the team? And then when you're out there, but you can't take away his edge, though. Like, Dylan has a different way of showing it. And I think that, certain guys, because they have certain personalities, they get away with showing emotion.
Right.
Right. So, but I don't really see I don't think that there's a big difference between the way that Chad Baker shows emotion and the way Dylan shows emotion.
Especially this year.
Yeah, especially it's just how we perceive it.
Yeah, he's been all smiles on the court. He's been out there, talking to officials and all that kind of stuff. I think he's getting a bad rep because of what happened last year.
Yeah.
Because if you look at this year, he hasn't done anything. He hasn't done anything to deserve all of this continued. He's just this kind of like, come on, man. Like, just let it go, bro. Like, I get it. He definitely flops a little bit and he's out there playing up when he gets hit and all that kind of stuff. And he bounces back up. Jazzy called him in the chat the other day when we were in the watch party. He called him Chad Baker, the injury faker, which I thought was hilarious. But none of that has anything to do with whether or not he deserves technical fouls for showing emotion on the floor. It's just it's nonsense. Now, mind you, this is the same officiating crew that called a tech on Jalen Moore when he hit a layup and he goes back and he says something to the Auburn bench. They called a tech on Miles Kelly when he hits a layup and he thought he got fouled and he said something to Jalen Moore on his way back down the floor. But Jeremiah Fears elbows Chad Baker-Mazara and they're like, no, that's not fair, bro. Like, I don't care. Like, I almost feel as if anybody else on Auburn's team had gotten elbowed in that moment, it'd have been a tech. But because it was Chad, they didn't do that. And I've seen people in comment sections and all over social media being like, well, Chad has earned that reputation. It doesn't matter. Your job as the official is to call the game, not call it because, well, that's him, so we're going to call it. No, either it's a tech or it's not, bro. Either it's F1 or it's not. And that's complete BS, man. I don't think he deserves that. I don't think he deserves the treatment he's getting from fans about how, well, he needs to. No, he doesn't. He needs to play ball. Yeah, he needs to continue doing what he's doing. Y'all got to chill, bro.
Yeah, I agree. Look, man, at the end of the day, you got to let them be who they are. And if you take that away from them, I think you take away part of what makes him so good. It's not just about being able to shoot a jump shot. If you're Chad Baker-Mazara, think about all the things that he does on the basketball court that you can't necessarily quantify with stats. For example, he was 5'11". He got thrown out of this game, mind you, right? So
He only played 20 minutes. He was 5 of 11. He was tied as the leading scorer in this game with 15 points. He had 4 of his 5 free throws. He had 2 rebounds. He had an assist. He had a steal. Like, he affected the game, right?
Yep.
And then there are all the other things too that aren't necessarily things you score on the stat sheet. But he was absolutely giving Oklahoma fits and hell. They said it, man. They said that in that game against Yale, you win that game if you have Chad Baker-Mazara. Period. Yep. You win it. And this year, I think Auburn is good enough to survive maybe not having him, but you are not a better team without Chad Baker-Mazara. You're just not. You are decidedly worse because of all the things that he can do for you if you're Auburn basketball. So this was I'm tired of the conversation about this young man's drive and fire, because that's what it really boils down to me. That's what it is. Right. And if you watched basketball, it's funny to hear the stories when you talk about guys like Michael Jordan after the fact. Everybody's he was a legendary jerk.
Yeah.
He punched teammates and they put up with it and they justified it because he was the GOAT.
Yeah.
All
Kobe
these
Bryant,
guys.
terrible. Everybody says he's a terrible teammate. He's a complete jerk all the time. Now it's the Mamba mentality.
Yeah,
but
right.
When
Mamba
he was playing, he
jerk.
was this awful teammate who Shaq couldn't get along with forever, and he was driving coaches away. Like, he didn't want to play second fiddle to guy. He was terrible to team, terrorized practices. But now all of a sudden he's got this fiery mentality that everybody appreciates. Freaking you can go down the list of legendary players that essentially were just kind of bad people, right? Like, when you talk about how they got along with people in life, they were terrible.
Yeah.
But it's what made them great. And like you say, you can't right now, I'm not calling him a great, but like, you look at how Draymond Green has been for those Warriors runs. Draymond Green is an absolute menace of a person, but he's so crucial to what they have been doing at the Warriors that Steve Kerr just kind of has to put up with it. It's like, man, we don't want you to get all these, but like, we kind of need him to be that guy in order for us to do what we do.
Yeah.
Same thing with Chad right now. Auburn needs Chad to be that guy. Auburn needs Dylan Cardwell to be that guy in order for them to do the things that they're doing on the floor. That's what makes them not want to lose games, because they have that, man. I refuse in this moment for us to lose. So I'm going to turn it up another notch. And if that means that I got to aggravate the other team a little bit, if I got to agitate, if I got to do what I got to do to hype my other guys up, I'm going to do all of that. I'm going to talk noise from the bench. I'm going to let you know when I blocked your shot. I'm going to let you know when I hit this shot in your face. I'm going to let you know when I dunk. I'm letting you know on every one of those instances. So you're thinking about me talking to you more than you are your game.
Yep. Facts. Yeah. And meanwhile, I'm going to score on you. Look, I want to close today's show talking about one of my favorite ESPN announcers, Jay Williams. This guy is just so good at his job. So I'm saying that sarcastically.
I was like, where's this going?
Yeah. What is his problem with Auburn?
He's a Duke guy. That's the only thing I can come up with. It's the only thing I can come up with.
What is his problem with Auburn? A statement was made in the pregame. I'm not sure it was versus Oklahoma. I think it was versus Tennessee.
Probably Ole Miss.
Or Ole Miss.
Yes. Which game was it that Duke was? It was a Duke North Carolina game was coming on later, because that's when it was.
I think it was the Ole Miss game then. And the guy said, his co-host said, Auburn is the most complete team in the nation. And he with a lot of disdain in his voice says, say that again. Like that was some sort of crazy statement.
Right.
And I have listened to him this season. I mean, he compared the way Janiah Broome plays at like prison ball.
Yeah.
He's talking about plane incidents that happened 2 months ago. What do we have to? What does Auburn have to do to get a fair shake from the people who drive the perception about the program?
Change the name of the program to Duke.
Yeah, they don't have a bunch of behavior problems. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like the team is running wild and everybody's getting in trouble.
Yeah.
Teammates fight.
Happens all the time.
This time, it just happened to be on a plane.
Yeah.
Teammates fight all the time. It happens. Right? If you are going to recruit dogs, they're going to bite each other every once in a while. They're going to brawl. That competitiveness, that thing that drives them to be the best, that's all the time.
Right.
That's not just when you're playing your opponent on the court. You want to beat the guys in practice. You want to be the best all the time, and that gives you that edge, and sometimes that comes out. You play ball, bro. I know you know this.
Yeah. Yeah, the competitiveness doesn't go away. It's not you don't just all of a sudden take your hoop shoes off and then now you're just like this really nice guy who never wants to win anything else in life. Like that's the nature of who you are in your core if you're really good at it. If you're not very good, then listen, even the nice guys in basketball have that competitive edge, man. They just do. They want to beat you at everything, bro.
Right.
And so I don't know. Like he's definitely he lets his and look, I'm not even mad at someone who is biased towards their alma mater. I'm not. Like Charles Barkley completely biased towards Auburn, but he will give props to other teams when they're good. If you're going to show your bias, at least let it be known that you're making a biased statement. But he tries to play it like he's being this fair and balanced analyst, and he's not. And it's crap. Like every opportunity he has to dig at Auburn, he does. And it makes absolutely no sense when Auburn has done nothing but earn respect all season for how they played from everybody.
Guess what I'm saying? What are we doing here?
Yeah.
What are we talking about? This guy drives me crazy. Like, I can't with him. It's gotten very difficult to listen to, but the reason why we're talking about tonight is these guys drive the perception of the program.
Yeah.
Right. And, I know we have the net and we have all these things, but these are humans doing seeding. These are humans. So when somebody of his influence that played the game at this level and at the next level, and is saying things like that, you are planting bias in the subconscious of the people who are making the decisions that somehow Auburn is not the best team in the country.
Which again, what was so heinous about saying they're the most balanced team in the like? I just don't like literally
the most complete team.
The statistics bear that out. It's not like you can just pull that out of your butt somewhere. Like they're one of the best offensive teams in the country and one of the best defensive teams in the country. They shoot well from the inside and outside. They defend at the rim and the three. They defend in transition. They defend in the half court. That's the definition of complete as a basketball team. Like, I don't even like what other definition are you using? They don't turn the ball over a bunch. They defend really well. They shoot high percentage shots. They're super efficient offensively. They make it tough for you to get baskets. That's complete. Where's the hole? Where's the weakness?
Yeah.
Point that out.
Yeah. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I just feel like it's unfortunate because I respected his game as a player. I respected what they did at Duke. And if you remind me, like they had a national championship. They came back from 10 down with like a minute left in a national title game or something to win it. He was part of one of the best teams that we've seen in college basketball. And I know that he knows ball.
Yeah.
I know he knows ball.
Which makes it feel intentional.
Yeah, right. Which makes what he's saying even worse.
Right.
Yeah, this is not real. I don't even know if you actually believe that.
Right.
What you're saying. So, look, man, this is why we're here. This is why, again, daily people choose to listen to us over national media. If you're an Auburn fan, because you get people like that who get in front of the media and it's intellectually dishonest, man. You know the game. You know this is the most complete team in the country right now based
on the results. I know they lost to Duke, but show me a team that hasn't lost a game yet this year.
Right, because
Is
Duke's
there an
lost a
undefeated
game.
team? Yeah, they've lost a couple. Right? So show me the perfect team. Auburn is a one-loss team at Duke in a game that was awfully officiated. I'm just saying, if I had to put my money on somebody to make a deep run right now in the tournament, and my choices were Auburn and Duke, I'd pick Auburn. They should get the easiest path, Ike. Let's get some comments before we get out of here. I want to thank everybody for joining the Midweek Report. Black Jesus says, at this point, they have learned how to win, even with the refs against them.
It's a fact.
I mean, this is a fact for sure. James Barnett says, fellas, the refs have been calling questionable games against us, and we have still won. So I'm not worried how they call the game against Bama. Worry. Worry. Yeah.
For however bad you think it is, it can get worse.
It can get worse. Yeah. Worry, James. Ben Blower says, I want that SEC regular season championship. Nice to have it going into both tournaments. So you already know you accomplished something already. I would agree with this. I don't really give a damn if they win the SEC tourney. You know why? Care. Because it has
no bearing on tournament seeding.
Nope, none, zero. Auburn's in the tournament. And it's not
and they will be a 1 seed even if they don't win a single game in the
SEC tourney. Yeah.
If you win the SEC regular season championship, just go ahead and pencil them in for the 1 seed.
That's a fact. Jazzy Joe with the super chat. I heard my name called in the universe. War damn Chad. Jazzy popping up out of nowhere with super chats. We love that. Ben Blower comes back with another super chat. Said during the Duke versus Wake Forest game, the ESPN commentator said, you have to think it's only a matter of time before Duke passes Auburn to become number 1.
Yeah.
Okay, so is this him saying, I think Auburn is eventually going to lose, and once they do, they should fall off that number 1 perch? Or because what's happening on Duke's schedule that would allow them to pass Auburn if both teams keep winning?
Duke's remaining schedule. At Clemson versus Cal versus Stanford at Virginia, number 23 Illinois at home, Miami, Florida State, Wake Forest, North Carolina again to end the season. They have 1 top 25 matchup left for the remainder of their year. 1.
And who's that?
And it's at the crib versus Illinois.
Okay.
They get 1 left the rest of their schedule, and it's at home. As a matter of fact, the ACC currently has 2 ranked teams.
They're terrible.
Duke and Illinois.
Yeah, they're terrible. It's awful. It's the worst conference in college basketball. So I will ask my question again. What is Duke going to do to climb on that number 1 perch? Because it sounds like you're waiting, ESPN commentator, for Auburn to just fall off of it.
Correct.
And I think at this point, they've earned the right to lose a couple of games and stay on that perch.
It's not going to happen, but yes, I think they should be able to because they had a much tougher road to be there.
Yeah, to this point, yeah, come on. Devin says, one of the announcers was saying they should have called the elbow or was going to get out of hand. He was right. That's how I felt in the arena, Devin. So I agree with him. Billis was praising us. Jay Williams always talking crap about us. A common theme with him. A very common theme with him. Riveting stuff here, Ike. We're going to get out of here. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Talking with Auburn basketball tonight. I will be at the game versus Florida this Saturday. Number 1 Auburn versus number 6
People
Florida.
Already camping out.
As they should be. But that's going to be fun. We'll be Mark, but we're going to be talking about another win Saturday night. Auburn wins this one. I think they win this one by double digits. Guys, thank you for joining us. Share this video at the War Report on social media and hashtag get your weight up so people know where to find us and that they know that it's us. Like this video and subscribe to the YouTube channel at us at the War Report on X and Instagram, TW Report on TikTok. We appreciate you guys always for joining us. This show is brought to you by our friends at The Rage Room. Visit the Opelika Rage Room at 1510 2nd Ave, or if you're in the Birmingham area, 2616 7th Ave, Birmingham. They got axe throwing up there in Birmingham. So if you want to throw some axes and think about all the things you want to destroy in your life, the Rage Room has you covered. We appreciate you guys for joining us. We'll be back at you guys tomorrow with the Auburn Express powered by the War Report. We're signing off, and as always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.